Hello and welcome to today's flight. We're parked at Tacoma Narrows Airport in front of Pavco Flight Center, getting ready to take off and head over to Mount Rainier. The goal today is to land on the top of the mountain, which stands at 14,400 feet. Now, if you look in the lower left-hand part of the screen, it shows a maximum altitude of 14,000 feet for this helicopter. The pilot operating handbook shows the maximum altitude at 16,000 feet density altitude. Of course, density altitude takes into account air temperature and other atmospheric factors, so it's a much more important number. When we take off, we're going to be traversing numerous airspace, both Class Delta and Class Bravo. We're going to be using Foreflight for that purpose, and we're going to be discussing some of that as we make our way eastbound to the mountain. After we get clear of the Bravo airspace, we're going to climb in earnest to a sufficient altitude to make a landing at the top of the mountain. I anticipate that the controls will be very sluggish at that altitude because of the reduced air density. We'll see how the aircraft performs, and hopefully there's a suitable spot up there to land. Without further ado, let's jump inside the helicopter, get it started, and be on our way. So we're going to go over very briefly some of the startup procedures for this helicopter. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the avionics master off, and we're going to go down here and take a look at the throttle. So that's the throttle. This is a left seat helicopter. Most helicopters you fly from the right seat. This one's set up to fly from the left seat. So right here is our throttle control. You can see this rotating around. This is the throttle stop ring. When we start it, we're going to be in the full cutoff position, which is all the way to the right. And then once N1 reaches 12 to 15%, that's this gauge right here, we're going to rotate it, and the stop ring is going to drop. And the reason for the stop ring is during flight, you don't want to drop your throttle down below idle, so the stop ring prevents that from happening. So for start, we're going to raise that stop ring, and we're going to bring that throttle all the way to the right, which is the cutoff position. All right. So now we're going to put the battery switch in the on position, key in the forward position to start the starter relay, and we're going to go ahead and hit the start button. And we're going to watch N1 right here, and it gets 12 to 15%. We're going to rotate that throttle until the stop ring drops, and that's the idle position. Now it's spinning up. While that's spinning up, let's go ahead and take a look at our GTN 750. And that should be starting up here in a second. And while that's happening, we're going to monitor our gauges. We're looking at the torque PSI, and that's going to peak, and then it's going to drop down and settle somewhere down around 30 PSI. And when that happens, we're going to advance our throttle to full, and we should be showing 103 RPMs. That's right there, 103 RPMs on N2, which is our rotor RPM. And we'll take a look at our GTN 750. We're going to bring up map view and flight plan view down here. Okay, that's all looking good. Going to turn our generator switch on. And everything's looking good there. Let's go ahead and bring up Foreflight. And we're going to look at our present position on the map. So there we are, and that is the airport diagram plate superimposed over the Foreflight's aeronautical sectional. That shows our position right there between Pavco and Narrows Aviation. And we're going to simulate that we've gotten our clearance from Tacoma Narrows Tower. We would let them know while we're on the ground that we're going to be transitioning through McCord Air Force Base airspace. The guys here at Tacoma would be calling them on the phone, letting them know our tail number and that we're going to be coming through their airspace. So they'll be expecting us. Shortly after takeoff, Tower here would hand us off to McCord. We'd be talking to those guys. They typically would give us a squawk code, and until we exit their airspace or close to exiting their airspace, they would give us a frequency change approval and squawk VFR. So as we make our way eastbound, we're going to be talking about a lot of the airspace that we're going to be going through and under. I'm pretty much going to keep it about 2,500 feet all the way, and I want to show you some of this airspace. So there we are there, and the layer of Bravo that we're under goes from 5 to 10,000 feet. But we're going to be going, let's go ahead and put the flight plan in now so you can see a little bit better. So KTI Debris is where we're departing from. And we're going to bring up Mount Rainier, which is easy to find. There it is. We're going to tap on the very highest elevation of the mountain right there, and we're going to tap on the lat long. So there's our course line, and we're going to tap down here to show us our full course, and it's showing at 42 nautical miles if you look there in the upper left hand side of the Foreflight display. All right, now I'm going to click in the upper right to recenter where we are. So again, talking about the airspace we're going through, the 5 to 10,000 foot layers where we are, but our course line is going to take us through a 3 to 10,000 foot layer. So we have to be really mindful of our altitude as we make our way eastbound. So 2,500 is a safe altitude. That'll keep us inside of McCord's airspace, which ends at 2,800 feet. You can see that square box there. Then we're going to be going into a 4,000 to 10,000 foot layer. You can see right there. Then 5 to 10,000 foot layer, and then we're out of, might even catch a little bit of the 6 to 7 before we get out from underneath all the Bravo. So I'll probably be stepping up my altitude as I progress eastbound. All right, so for now I'm going to go ahead and get rid of Foreflight, and we're going to take off and be on our way. So gently apply power, bring it into a hover, and rotate the helicopter southbound. At the end of the taxiway, we'll make our left turnout, head direct Mount Rainier. It'll be a very prominent feature, hard to miss. It's not the tallest mountain in the lower 48, but in terms of the visibility of the mountain from the ground to the top, it is the tallest. So basically the amount of exposed mountain, because it's so close to sea level at its base. And there's my hangar in the real world down below, very accurately rendered here in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. And we'll go ahead and make our left turnout. Crossing the Narrows, Tacoma Narrows to the Tacoma side from Gig Harbor. And there's beautiful Mount Rainier. Nice gentle climb, 500 feet per minute. We're doing about 95 knots over ground. And we'll just keep Mount Rainier right in the windscreen. Bring Foreflight back up just to show you where we are in relation to the moving map.
Class Delta in 2.2 miles.
And there's the warning that we're approaching McCord Air Force Base. Tacoma Narrows would have handed us off by now, and that's a warning that Class Bravo is above us in 2.0 miles, and that's the 3,000 to 10,000 foot shelf. We'll be cruising along at 2,500 feet, so it'll keep us well below there. There's 1,500. We leveling off here in another 1,000 feet. So Tacoma Narrows would have handed us off to McCord. We'd be talking to those guys right now. They would typically give us a discrete squawk code for our transponder. And coming up on 2,000. Doing 92 knots over ground. That's perfect. We're going to leave our power setting right where it is. Coming up on 2,000. There's 2,000. You could see the blue hash mark surrounding Tacoma Narrows Airport. That's Tacoma's airspace, and it adjoins the McCord Air Force Base airspace. As you can see right there, that hash mark blue line delineates McCord from Tacoma Narrows, and we're just now coming into McCord, and we're going to level off here in a minute to 2,500. There's 2,500. Just such incredible detail. It always amazes me. Every time I fly a flight simulator, I'm amazed by the quality of the graphics. I don't know how those guys do it, but kudos to them. And there's the indicator that we're in McCord class Delta. Of course, we already knew that. And we're doing a nice, comfortable 112 knots over ground as we head over to Mount Rainier. And we're going to keep it at 2,500 for a little bit here. So we're under the, as you can see there, the 3,000 to 10,000 foot shelf. Under there, we're going to stay at 2,500 all the way up until we get to the next layer, which is 4,000 to 10,000. We'll bring it up to about 3,500 feet there. And the subsequent layer is 5,000 to 10,000, and we'll bring it up to 4,500 there. And just basically step our way up until we get out from underneath the class Bravo altogether. And then we'll climb up to about 15,000 feet. See how the helicopter does at that altitude. And we're doing a nice, comfortable 112 knots over ground. Just coming to the edge of McCord airspace. Those guys probably right about now would be telling us that we can change frequencies and squawk VFR or 1200. And we would acknowledge that and continue on our way. All right, pretty close to the 4,000 to 10,000 layer. We'll climb up to 3,500. There, if you see ahead, KPLU, Kilo Papa Lima uniform, is Thun Field or Pierce County Airport. I've flown in there a bunch of times. I've actually had the airplane worked on there. All right, so that's telling us there on Foreflight that we have exited the class Delta airspace for McCord. All right, so I'm going to bring it up in a nice gentle climb to 3,500 under this layer, and then when we reach the 5 to 10, we'll bring it up to 4,500 feet. There's Pierce County Airport just to our right as we look down at that airport. All right, we're in the 5 to 10 layer, so we're going to continue climbing to 4,500. Going to recenter. Just did a direct to our selected waypoint, which is the very top of the mountain. 110 over ground, 4,000 feet. Everything's looking great. Beautiful day. A little bit of haze in the air, which is pretty typical in the summer months here in the Pacific Northwest. And we're almost out from underneath all the Bravo. We'll level off here at 4,500. And we're doing a nice 122 over ground, just perfect. Might catch a sliver of that 6,000 to 7,000 foot layer there before we exit out from underneath all the Bravo. Here in a little bit, I'm going to turn Foreflight off, or at least remove the view from the PC screen so you get a better view out of the helicopter as we approach the mountain. Almost out from underneath all the Bravo. All right, out from underneath all the Bravo, so I'm going to make that moving map go away for now. We'll bring it back up when we're on the top of the mountain. That's assuming we can find a good place to land up there. And just to show you our exact position relative to the mountain and relative to its highest point. Boy, look at those trees down below, even the bare spots where they do clear cuts, also accurately rendered. I'm assuming they take satellite imagery. I don't know how they get that so accurate, because when I fly over this stuff in the real world, I'm looking down, I'm like, wow, that's the same patch of land that I saw in Flight Simulator. There's the Carbon River down below to the left as we slowly climb up here. So we're 17 nautical miles now from the very top of the mountain, showing 10 minutes to arrival. I'm going to increase our rate of climb. Now, based on, I don't know what the density altitude is going to be at the top of the mountain, but as I indicated earlier, the pilot operating handbook says 16,000 feet density altitude is the service ceiling for this aircraft, and I think we're going to be really either close to or maybe even above that. So I know I keep saying it, but the controls are going to get really, really sluggish, very slow responses, and if you move the control too much in one direction, because you're getting delayed reaction from the aircraft, by the time it does react, you might find yourself overcompensating for that reaction, and you can get into this oscillating effect, which I want to avoid. So I'm going to be very, very gentle on the control inputs when I get up there. And it's going to take me, I'm going to take my time getting it down on the ground for that reason. So, you know, you'll have to bear with me. This is something you should, if you're interested in flying helicopters in Flight Simulator, it's something you might want to try. Really, I'm a little nervous myself because I'm not super proficient in helicopter flight. I hope to become that proficient, but not right now. So I've flown around this both clockwise and counterclockwise several times in the fixed wing airplane and got some really beautiful 4K GoPro footage down below. In one flight, I flew with my buddy who's a former F-16 pilot, retired airline guy, and he's more brave than I am. He would fly toward the mountain and to allow us to get better footage on the cameras, and it was super cool. Lots of fun. We got a little closer than I normally do, but it was really, really fun. Coming up on 9,000 feet here, climbing at 1,000 feet per minute. Our speed over ground right now is 104 knots. Okay, the glaciers are coming more into clear view, and they're very, from what I can tell now, they're really accurately rendered. They have the crevices, vertical crevices, which are carved by melting snow, avalanches, falling rocks. It looks like they've modeled that into this pretty nicely. 10,500 coming up on 11,000. There you can see some coloration in the rock, which is also very accurate because there are some formations that are very red poking through the snow there. Super cool. Well done. Well done on the graphics. Such great detail. The shadows, the crevices in the glaciers and in the snow. $13,000. And we're showing about 3.5 minutes to the mountain. Challenge is going to be to get this slowed down to a hover with very likely mushy controls. They're already feeling it right now. Very slow reaction on the inputs. Coming up on 14,000. And we're almost at the our altitude's almost equal to the elevation of the mountain right now. Getting it a little slowed down just a little bit here in advance. We're at the elevation, the altitude of the top of the mountain. Doing about 74 knots forward speed. And I'll level off about 15,000. Wow, it's looking amazingly beautiful. Wow, just look at that. So incredible. $14,700. I don't see too many flat areas up there. I don't know if I'll see any. Forward speed, 81 knots. The nose up a little here. Get it slowed down. .69 knots forward speed. All right, so slow it down a little more. Reduce collective. Try to get into a hover about 1,000 feet above the top of the mountain. Controls are really, really super sluggish right now. All right, we're leveled off, 68 knots over ground. I don't see too many flat areas up there. Which doesn't surprise me. Forward speed 31 knots over ground. I really don't want to get too much faster than that. Like I said, I'm going to take this super slow, guys. "17 knots forward speed, and they add a tad bit of power, nose down, just to get a little bit more forward speed. Wow, look at that beautiful detail. There's a look outside the helicopter. All right, we're going to get slowed down here. Still, oh, looks like there's a crater, some kind of feature there that looks round. I'll call it a crater. I want to get the helicopter put into a hover here. Yeah, that's probably the only place that we can land, I think, is that there's a kind of a circular area at the top. I'm calling it a crater. And I think that's where we're going to head. I want to get a little bit of forward speed here and head for that. If you can see what I'm talking about, there off the left side is a very distinct, I guess it's a crater. That's what I'm going to shoot for. Also looks like the very top of the mountain.
$500.
All right, so we're 500 AGL. I'm going to come right a little bit. It's hard to tell where in there is flat and where isn't. So I'm probably just going to have to wing it a little bit. Taking it real slow. Keep a little bit of forward speed, showing 4 knots forward speed over ground. Bringing it down nice and slow. Slide it over here to the right. And the controls are so sluggish right now. That's 200 AGL. I'm going to come left a little. It looks like a slope there. I don't quite like the look of that. Coming left. Backwards. Left. This looks a little better. Put it down right here. Okay. And we're on the ground. Whew. Let's take a look outside. A little bit of a slope there. Let's see what it looks like from the side. Not terrible. Yeah, I don't know, that's probably about as good a place as you can hope for on the top of this mountain. That was kind of stressful. Let's take a look at Foreflight and see what that looks like. And there we are, right inside the very peak, which, as you can see, is 14,410 feet. Well, I can tell you right now, it's fun, not fun, because a lot of stress involved in trying to control the helicopter when it's at or near, or maybe even above its service ceiling. So they have service ceilings published for a reason. But it was, I'll end up by saying it was super fun, and I'm glad you joined me today on my flight from Tacoma Narrows Airport to Mount Rainier. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you again on Next Flight.